To 8:27 now. Millionaires have a critical role to play in healing our world. Who said so? Well, a group of millionaires. You've written a letter calling on politicians to acknowledge that tax increases on the wealthy are, in their words, essential. One of those who signed is Gary Stevenson, a former interest rate trader, and he joins us on the line. Morning to you.
Good morning, Nick.
It's an unusual message, this. I'm rich, tax me.
Yes, it is an unusual message, but I guess this is a pretty unusual time, and I think it's going to be very important.
How would you want governments to tackle the wealthy?
Well, for me, I think one of the most important things when we deal with tackling the wealthy is that we develop a tax system that is able to tax wealth and not just income. So we currently have a tax system which is relatively good at taxing people who work for their money and earn a lot of money, such as footballers and sometimes bankers if they're not trying to dodge it. But people who have very large amounts of money and accumulate their income through things like capital gains or trusts, we're very bad at taxing them. That means we end up with a system where people who work and people who earn money have to pay a lot of tax, whereas the very richest in our society often end up paying nothing or next to nothing.
So is this a question of a wealth tax as against just higher rates of income tax, or is it about finding a way to stop money being moved from one country to another and always avoiding the tax authorities of that particular country?
To be honest, I think those two questions have to be considered hand in hand, because there's no point bringing in a wealth tax which has loopholes in it. Because if you put loopholes in your tax system, then the people who will exploit those loopholes will be the people with the best tax accountants. And those are generally the very richest. And, our tax system is littered with loopholes. I remember when they brought in the second home stamp duty, an extra 3% for second home buyers, perfectly reasonable tax. There was an exemption for people who bought 7 or more at once. I mean, that tells you the tax system we have now and the people who pay and the people who don't.
Now, many of the names you saw in this letter are relatively well-known. Richard Curtis, for example, the film director, Christina Johansson, the philanthropist. You're not so well-known, but clearly made a lot of money very young, trading in the city. And having read some of what you've written, it feels as if when you watched the traders around you, you were rather revolted at the business that had made you so rich.
Well, some of them might be listening here, so I'll probably be careful what I say. The truth is, I had a lot of disagreements culturally with some people when I worked in the city. There are some elements of that industry which can be a little bit unseemly at times. There are definitely some people who I won't name names. But actually, I learned a lot working in the city, and some parts of it I really enjoyed. The job analysing the economy was fantastically interesting, and there were some really intelligent and interesting people, and some people who were really good to me when I was there. So I don't want to tar all bankers with the same brush. I think, as you'll find in every walk of life, you'll find good and bad people. But there were definitely parts of that industry which left a bitter taste in my mouth.
Gary Stevenson, thank you very much for joining us.